Today we're going to take our first look at the adult Samson, and we may be exploding some Sunday school views of Samson. I know when you're teaching Sunday school, particularly young children, the Bible does not mention dinosaurs at all. So there's one opportunity missed, and Samson is the closest we can come to a superhero to try to catch the attention of some of the boys in our Sunday school class. And so we look at Samson very simplistically. Super strong, and that's about it. But as we look at what the Word actually says about Samson, we're going to find that this was a man in three dimensions, as we are all people in three dimensions. He had his moments of greatness and his moments of deep disappointment. But God used him in his situation to move the people of Israel to resist the Philistine oppression. So I'm going to ask you to turn in your Bibles to Judges chapter 14. You'll find it's on page 396. And as today we're going to look at Samson's mistaken marriage, and as marriage is a deep well from which those of us who have an overactive sense of humor can draw, while you're looking that up, let me share a couple of little anecdotes with you. These are absolutely not true. The speaker at a women's club was lecturing on the subject of marriage, her point being that women wanted their husbands to be partners with them, not to mother them as children. To reinforce this point, the speaker excitedly asked the audience of women, "How many of you want to mother your husband?" She was shocked when one woman raised her hand. This had never happened before in all the times that she had given this talk. And she singled out that woman and said to her, "Do you really want to mother your husband?" "Mother," the woman said. "I thought you said smother." Now, in the interest of fairness, I offer a view from the other side of the aisle. A guy was sitting on his porch, and he saw a friend walk by with a new dog. The pooch was an impressive specimen of a German shepherd. And he called out to him and said, "Nice dog." "I got this for my wife," was the reply. The man sitting on the porch sighed and said, "Sure wish I could make a trade like that." You. Until you're on the receiving end of it. In today's passage, we're going to see Samson, the biblical macho man, making big mistakes, sinning against God. But folks, at the heart of the matter, God still used him. So God will use us even when we're not perfect, even if we're massive mistakes. God will use us to accomplish his will. Now that doesn't mean you can go out and make a massive mistakes, but know that God is powerful. Let's turn to chapter 4. We're going to pick up the story now of Samson as an adult, where we read, "Samson went down to Timnah and saw there a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, 'I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now go get her for me as my wife.' His father and mother replied, 'Isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife?' But Samson said to his father, 'Get her for me. She's the right one for me.' His parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines, for at that time they were ruling over Israel. Samson went down to Timnah together with his father and mother. As they approached the vineyards of Timnah, suddenly a young lion came roaring toward him. The Spirit of God came powerfully upon him, so that he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as he might have torn a young goat. But neither his father nor his mother. But he told neither his father or his mother what he had done. He went down. Oh, wait a minute, I skipped a part. I'm so excited about this. No, that's right. But he told neither his father or his mother what he's done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and he liked her. Aww. Sometime later, when he went back to marry her, he turned aside to look at the lion's carcass, and in it he saw a swarm of bees and some honey. He scooped out the honey with his hands and ate as he went along. Yeah, anybody want to say, ew? Yeah. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some, more ew, and they ate it. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey from the lion's carcass. Now his father went down to see the woman, and there Samson held a feast, as was customary for young men. When the people saw him, they chose 30 men to be his companions. "Let me tell you a riddle," Samson said to them. "If you can give me the answer within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. If you can't tell me the answer, you must give me 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes." "Tell us your riddle," they said. "Let's hear it." He replied, "Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet." For 3 days they could not give an answer. On the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, "Coax your husband into explaining the riddle for us, or we will burn you and your father's household to death. Did you invite us here to steal our property?" Then Samson's wife threw herself on him, sobbing, "You hate me. You really don't love me. You've given my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer." "I haven't even explained it to my father or mother," he replied. "So why should I explain it to you?" She cried the whole 7 days of the feast. So on the 7th day, he finally told her, because she continued to press him. She in turn explained the riddle to her people. Before sunset on the 7th day, the men of the town said to him, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" Samson said to them, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle." Listen, if you're the strongest man of all time, his temptation is to say stupid things. Then the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. He went down to Ashkelon, struck down 30 of their men, stripped them of everything, and gave their clothes to those who had explained the riddle. Burning with anger, he returned to his father's home. And Samson's wife was given to one of his companions who had attended him at the feast. Now, that seems a little confusing. Let's try to sort it out here. Samson proves to us that God can accomplish his will with our help or in spite of us if needed. You follow along on your message notes. We're going to look at Samson's sin. Sam sins today. And we're going to learn that this man was a man, and in full humanity, and at the same time had the Holy Spirit. How does this work? First sin. And this is really the key to what we're going to look at today. This is the important part. That Samson married a pagan woman. He married a Philistine woman. This is someone outside the Jewish faith. And in spite of being the strongest man ever, Samson had to go to his dad and say, "Dad, get that woman for me." This was a culture of arranged marriages. And so here Samson, to his credit, is following the culture. He's observing the rules. But the decision that he made was based only on what he had seen. Verse 1, he saw a young Philistine woman. We're assuming, since all of this is love at first sight, that she was extremely pretty. But he doesn't even talk to her until verse 7. He's ready to marry her, but he doesn't know her until much later. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Manoah tried to get Samson to do right. I don't think they're at fault in this situation. We read from Deuteronomy 7, 1-6, some very strong commands of God, and among them was, don't intermarry with people outside of our faith. Why? Because the next generation is not going to worship the true God. This is very serious. And so Samson's parents objected to his choice of a woman among the uncircumcised Philistines. And that was meant to be a bit of an insult. They were trying to jog Samson out of this decision. And you can understand their objection. They are at about the tail end of 40 years of suffering the oppressions of the Philistine nation. And these people are the enemy. They have used and treated the people of God spitefully. And you can kind of hear the Jewish mom coming out here. Why can't you marry a nice girl? Why can't you pick one from among our relatives, the tribes of Dan? Why can't you pick one from our nation, at least? And of course, they aren't Jewish at this time, but a nice Israelite girl. Verse 4 is the key verse. This is the part that proves that God can and will accomplish what he has set for doing. And so the purpose of God in this chapter is to bring Samson and the Philistines together in a confrontational way. He wants Samson to emerge as the leader of the nation of Israel, and he needs to spark him somehow. Well, one of the time-honored methods of starting a fight is to have a disagreement over a woman, right? Nations have gone to war for such things. And so God moved Samson in this way. He was working all the time. Samson, for his part, was selfish and stubborn. He said back to his father and mother, "She's the right one for me." Now, what that literally translated is, she's right in my eyes. Remember, we said the whole thing was strictly visual, strictly superficial. Samson's attitude, however, characterized the entire nation at that time. As chapter 17, verse 6 and 21 elaborate, everyone in Israel did as they saw fit. If that sounds familiar, it may be an expression even of our own culture. So there's the important thing. The secondary thing is Samson's sin number 2, that he was breaking the Nazirite rules. And we learned last Sunday that to be a Nazirite was to take on extra rules. That you did more above and beyond what the average Israelite did in order to be extra faithful to God. And these were rules that Samson was supposed to follow all his life. One of these rules was to abstain from all the fruit of the grapevine. No wine, no grapes, no raisins. And you were to avoid all of those things. So all we can prove is opportunity. The text doesn't say he drank any wine or ate any grapes or even raisins, but he's there and he's alone. The other reason he's there and he's alone is he's going to meet his intended privately. Pretty sure it wasn't supposed to happen that way. Rule number 2 of a Nazarite was to avoid touching a dead body. As he traveled with his parents and the family walked through the vineyard, a young lion charged at them, you recall. And it, I guess they looked like lunch to this lion. And in verse 6, this is important, we read, for the second time about Samson, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. And the Holy Spirit went right into the muscles of Samson. And he was able to defeat this lion just as easily as if a baby goat, were attacking him. Now, I'm not too pleased about the baby goat being torn apart. And any of you who are in the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, just remember, it's one of the signs of the times. The point simply being that he had miraculous strength. But he doesn't tell anyone about the lion's attack. Sometime later, it says in verse 8, and it must have been a long time because the carcass of the lion had rotted and apparently been hollowed out. And in the hollow, probably of the rib cage, bees had taken up residence and established a colony and were making honey. Now, I checked to see if this is a real thing, if scientifically this is what bees do, and I found out, yes, it is a real thing scientifically, and also it's a real thing culturally. The scientific name for bee is apir, which is named after the Egyptian bull god, Apir. And they believe that bees came out of the carcass of this god. So there's a cultural thing going here, and there's a scientific thing going here. What isn't going here is good hygiene. Nasty. And he clearly violated a rule here. Now, the law of Moses said that you were not to touch a dead human body. The person who did so would be unclean for 7 days, and there were lots of things that went with that. But the Nazarite vow said not to touch a body, which didn't specify whether it was human or animal. Rule number 3, abstain from intoxicating drinks. Look at verse 10. He went to the bride's hometown, because apparently it was customary even then that you get married in the bride's hometown. And they held a wedding feast. Did you read the words? As was customary for young men. Now, what's your first thought there?
The bachelor party.
Thank you. I'm glad it wasn't just my first thought.
Yep.
Bachelor party. Is that what went on? Well, the word translated as feast here literally means a drinking party. Not just one evening, but for 7 days. Okay? Now, these people didn't have a lot to celebrate, but when they celebrated, they went overboard. 7 days of bachelor parties. So, does it say that Samson got intoxicated or drank intoxicating beverages? No, but again, opportunity was there. The third sin of Samson is not taking his job seriously. Now, he goes to the bride's hometown, right? And he arrives there, and verse 11 says to us, when the people saw him, they chose 30 men to be his, let's get the air quotes out, companions. Really? Let's take a view of the situation here. You're in enemy territory. You're marrying a young lady who's a member of the enemy nation, and suddenly 30 groomsmen are selected for you? Is there any chance that any of these guys might be reporting to the king of the Philistines? Yeah, might be there to maybe keep an eye on them. So apparently Samson had the physique of Arnold Schwarzenegger and the personality of Larry the Cable Guy. And this is sufficient to make the Philistines very wary. What's Samson doing in the midst of that? Well, if you're the strongest guy ever, I guess you don't care. You don't see anything as a threat. And so he starts a betting game with them. Because this goes on, right? And one of the things in that culture that people liked to do was to test each other with riddles. Doesn't sound like a great time to us, maybe, but in that culture, what have you got? So Samson says, I'll tell you what, guys, I'm going to tell you a riddle, and if you can guess it, I will give you all a new set of clothes. And if you don't guess it, I'm going to get all of your wedding clothes that you were planning on wearing. Well, let's see, we've got 7 days to guess. Things will look pretty good. Sure, we'll take that bet. And so he tells them in this cute little poem about his experience of killing the lion, finding honey in the lion's carcass. Nobody else knows about it. It tells us twice that he didn't tell anybody about this event. So what chance do they have? They spend 3 days, the text says, trying to figure out the answer. And as day 4 dawns, they're getting a little desperate now. And so they go to his wife, and rather than appeal to her patriotism, they threaten her. Not just a little threat either. We're going to burn down your father's house, and oh, by the way, you'll be in it, along with your entire family. Yikes. These guys were taking it seriously. And what they said to her was, is this whole thing a setup for you to steal from us? So Samson's fiancée turns to the stereotypical tricks of crying, nagging, which is why I read the text in the way I did. She wore him out over the time of the feast, and he finally let the information go. This is going to sound very familiar to us in a chapter or two as we turn to the story of Samson and Delilah. The guy could have learned something here, but no. He had commitment issues, and he didn't learn a thing. So they get the answer. They savor their victory until the very last second, because sundown on the 7th day is when the bet is on. And so the sun is getting low on the horizon, and they say to him, oh, what's sweeter than honey? What's stronger than a lion? That's when Samson comes back with that line that you rightly understood as being very insulting to his future bride. Sin number 4, Samson had a quick and violent temper. Obviously, he didn't have 30 pairs of wedding clothes in his back pocket, nor in his suitcase. He had no means by which he could pay the debt that he had incurred because of his gambling. So he killed and stole in order to pay his debt. But notice something. It says for the 3rd time that the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. The Spirit directed him to Ashkelon, one of the capital cities of the Philistine nations. And once there, I assume, Samson selected the 30 best dressed guys he could find. He turned to GQ and said, this one, that one, this one. He killed them. The text says struck them down, so maybe not murder, but certainly violence. He stole their fine clothing and then took it back to Timnah to pay his debt. Then, feeling betrayed by his fiancée, Samson effectively abandoned her. He left. At the end of the wedding, when he should have been celebrating his new marriage, he's gone. And some practical person said, well, we've been having a wedding feast all week. Seems like we should have a marriage. and they gave his wife to one of their countries so she wouldn't be jilted bride. Friends, this event is the climax of the story of Samson's life. From this moment on, he is engaged with the enemy. And this chapter shows us how God used Samson's character flaws of impulsiveness, of selfishness, of stubbornness to deliver his people. But here's the thing for us. Why do it the hard way? Why go through life rebelling against God and vainly trying to strike out on our own way? Why continue to go back to the same sins time and again? Why not learn from our mistakes? Why not be devoted to God and to follow his way? Because when we do, we'll realize that God's will was accomplished and things were a whole lot better for each of us as well. We can learn from Samson's life. Let us have the Holy Spirit, let us have it to the full, and let us live as people who have the Holy Spirit. Amen? Amen. Very good. We're going to turn now to our hymnal again. I need thee every hour. As Sharon comes to lead us, if there is some step of faith that you want to take today, if God has spoken to you through the life of Samson, and you say, yeah, I've been there, done that, I've kind of got that thing going, come forward as we sing. 6:38.